family, how y'all doing? It's your girl, your diva in knowledge, Lady Mocha, represent Mocha's Cafe, Day Paris, where I'm always serving you wisdom, knowledge, and spiritual awareness. Again, big ups to all of my subscribers, my A1s from day ones who've been rocking with me for 4 years. Those of you who recently subscribed, I welcome you to Mocha's Cafe Day Paris family. And if this is your first time checking out any of my content ever, and you like the content that I present to you today, please make sure before you exit that you like, you share, and you subscribe and join the family. So I wanted to go into this recipe today's topic, content, of course. Yesterday, if you were following me, if you were able to attend my premiere, I talked about how you have a lot of these older women who would not retire from ratchetness. You know, the women that's over 45, still wearing the tats, still wearing the titty tops with the, with the titties longer than my third shift, tatted up, just still don't want to accept the fact that the ratchet lifestyle is no longer working for them. They're grandmothers now, and a lot of them, have wasted their youth, being ratchet. And now that they are older and that ratchet lifestyle is not working for them, they still can't retire from it. So if you did not check out that content, please make sure you do. Hopefully I remember to leave the link or whatever. So those who forgot, you can check that content out, because like I said, my channel is very balanced. I go in on both men and women. So since yesterday, I went in on the older hood rats who do not want to retire from the ratchet lifestyle. Today, I thought it was imperative that I did content on the guys, because I'm starting to notice this is also becoming an ongoing issue. When the poverty Pookie becomes high value. And I'm sure a lot of you ladies as well as you guys are going to be able to relate to a lot of things that I discuss in today's content. So, nevertheless, YouTube has become a new place of revenue for a lot of people who have been able to capitalize off of the deficiencies of others, off of a specific group of people that they know are struggling in certain areas in society. You have black women that are struggling with not falling into that entrapment of becoming another statistic. And you have also, black men as well that also are, trying to conquer, this stigma that society has placed on black men, that black men don't want to work, don't want to be successful. They are the majority of the reasons why the crimes in the black community are at an all-time high. So the black community, all of us, whether you're a man or a woman, you're all trying to, any of us who have any integrity or any values left, we're trying to avoid falling into that entrapment that society, even more so the black community, has stagnated us with. It's the black community that are telling black women that they're not valuable enough, and it's the black community telling black men that you'll never be successful enough. So it is the black community that's basically confining black men and black women. It's the black community that's confining the black community. Basically, that's what I'm saying. So anyway, I wanted to talk about how you have a lot of these poverty Pookies who once upon a time was in some type of struggle. All of us at some point in time, if you were born and raised in a black family, in a black community, most of us, one way or another, have had some type of poverty. We were poverty stricken in some form or another. And unless you were blessed and fortunate to be one of those ones who was born and raised in, through riches, inheritances, you was blessed to come up in a generation of which you did not have to struggle, eat and, wish sandwiches, 2 slices of bread, wishing you had some meat to put between them. How you had to drink out of jelly glasses. When that jelly was finished, you didn't throw that damn jar away. You know what you did? You washed that jar out real good and you put it in a dish rack, because being in the struggle, you learned how to improvise. You didn't just throw stuff away. You get what I'm saying? You didn't just throw stuff away. You learned to improvise. Hell, if you didn't have a dustpan, guess what you used to pick up trash? You used a piece of cardboard, or you used that album cover, that Lionel Richie album cover, or that OJ's album cover. You use that album cover and you use that as a dustpan to sweep up trash. You know, anybody who has been born and raised in the struggle and not ashamed, not embarrassed by their past can tell you, when you are born and raised in poverty, you learn to improvise, you learn to make use of your lack of resources thereof. So, as I stated, unless you was fortunate and did not have to, endure the lifestyle of struggle, then you may not be able to relate to a lot of the stuff that I'm saying. But the truth is, all of us have been in some type of struggle. Some more extreme than others, but nevertheless, we all have experienced some level of poverty, okay? All of us did not go to school with designer clothes. When you got a hole in those pants, your mother didn't just run out there and buy no whole new pair of pants. She took them pair of pants and she sewed up that hole with a patch, and you kept it moving. Poverty-stricken people are natural survivors. A lot of people are ashamed of their past, but what they don't realize is your past has a lot to do with why you are successful today, or why you're no longer in poverty today, because your poverty is the reason you strive, and it motivates you to keep striving for better, or elevating for better, because you never want to go back to that place of struggle because you experienced it, and you don't ever want to have to repeat those hardships. And if you become a parent, you definitely don't want your children having to relive those hardships that you have had to overcome as a child. So nevertheless, to stay specific, because in this particular content, I'm speaking in terms of men. Okay, I got on the ladies yesterday, I got to get on the guys today. It's just as simple as that. Very balanced, non-biased channel. Okay, I'm gonna go in on both of you. All right. So anyway, you have a lot of men, that were raised in their youth in some type of poverty household. You have some of these men that were raised by single mothers, and they did not have the privilege of having a father in the home to balance their masculinity. Back during the 60s and the 70s, everybody didn't have that luxury of, growing up and being raised in a family in which both parents fought it out, stayed together, learned to overcome the obstacles, and made that ultimate decision to be dedicated to weather the storms so their children would not have to experience what it's like only having one parent in the household. So you have a lot of men that were raised in fatherless homes, either because the mother was just bringing the man down. A lot of times we hear these sob stories when it comes to women being left to be single mothers. But truth be told is, some of these women bring it upon themselves. Some of these women had stand-up men, stand-up husbands that didn't just leave because they were punking out of doing their duties as a man. You have some women that did not respect the authority or the leadership of a real man. And this isn't the case for all women, but in some cases, when a man is not feeling he's respected as a leader, or he's not being granted or privileged that leadership of authority as a husband, because the woman wants to dominate him, the wife wants to dominate him, it definitely can get him to a place in which he feels discouraged and he's not being heard. So versus putting his hands on her and putting himself in a position in which he ends up in prison, losing his freedom, you have had some men who have had to walk away from what they call it, low-hanging fruit women. You have had women back in the day that were not always good, outstanding models as far as what represents a real woman. There was women back then who cooked, who cleaned, who took care of the household, held it down, made sure that man had a hot plate of food every time he came in from work. And then you have had others who were out there hoeing, who were out there on drugs. You had women who were on drugs very heavily, You have women who drink like sailors. You know, a lot of people don't want to discuss this stuff when it comes to women, because it's society wants to shun the fact that there are women out here who don't have drug, substance abuse, or alcohol abuse issues. And a lot of that is more common than what we realize. Not only that, you have some women who had a problem with gambling. I know women back in the day remember playing spades, playing cards. That was the biggest source of entertainment back in the day for black families, black folks who were in poverty. They would gamble. They would play cards. You know, all of us knew that one aunt, or that had that one mama, or that one daddy who loved to gamble. You know, who loved to play cards. Some of them were not really good at it, and some of them were. But those who weren't good at it, it costed their families a lot of money. You know, you've had men and women back then, but in this particular instance, I'm talking about women who had hard-working husbands who brought home the bacon, brought home the bread, did what he was supposed to do as a man. He provided. And when he entrusted his wife with the finances, with the funds, she's taking the money and gambling it up. You've had some women who ran, I forgot what they call those type of houses and stuff, but they ran gambling houses. When our husband would go to work for hours at a time, she's playing cards, you know, spending up all the money that he's breaking his back working hard for. And, definitely putting him into a deeper hole of poverty while he's out there trying to provide. So it's various reasons why a lot of these men up and leave their families. Now, you can look at it like he's being a coward, or, he's not being a real man. But some men have left women to keep their sanity and to keep their freedom. And I would rather a man leave a woman than to beat up on her, kill her, hurt the kids, or whatever. So a lot of times when we hear these fathers leaving and walking out on their children, we automatically empathize with the woman. Like, how dare he? He's not a real man. Why would he just leave his family cold? And it is cold in a sense as far as the children suffering. But if that man, again, wants to keep his freedom and wants to keep his peace of mind, and that woman's being hard-headed, she's being stubborn, she's hoeing, she's making bad decisions with his hard-earned money and not taking care of the kids, not holding it down. Anybody can only take but so much. And the man shouldn't be defined as less than a man because he's not willing to tolerate a no good ass woman that's dragging and bringing him down. So, anyway, a lot of these young black males were raised by single mothers. Again, some of these single mothers were at fault because of either Jezebel behavior, not cooking, not cleaning, not doing right with the finances. And then you have had other women who were doing their duties as a wife and their husbands just failed them. He wasn't man enough to stand up when he lost his job. Back then a lot of men were losing jobs, and some men weren't men. Instead of going out there picking themselves back up and getting another job, you have some men back then who was feeling sorry for themselves and no longer wanted the burden of trying to provide for his wife and his children, so he cowered out and left. So it's one or the other. But nevertheless, you have some of these men, young men, who were raised in households in which they only had one parent. So whether one parent or two parents, you can have two parents and still struggle and still be in poverty to a certain degree. But nevertheless, a lot of young men, young black men that are successful and high value today, it comes from the fact that a lot of them came from nothing. And when you come from nothing, it's that badge of shame in which you never want to be reminded of the struggle that you endured, as a man. You know what I'm saying? So, on that note, you have these young black men who have had to overcome a lot, who have witnessed their mother struggle or both of their parents struggle. And you have had these men during their youth, their experience being teased, their experience being made out of a mockery, going to school. Some of these young men were even bullied. I really honestly think that all kids at some point experience some type of bulliness. I even got bullied as a child. But I think for males is even worse when they are bullied, because it's that lack of feeling masculine. You lose that sense of masculinity when you're getting beat up in school all the time. The other boys that were bigger than you, had low self-esteem, but because they perceived you as a weakling, because you were very skinny, because you wasn't as fit, because everybody has to go through puberty, and a lot of young males, when they go through puberty, they're skinny, they're not, fully developed as a man. And when you have other young men that have developed faster than them, have bigger muscles than them, having a more solid weight to their bodies, you had a lot of solid shaped Pookies that took advantage of the frail, skinny Pookies. Anybody who's been in high school or middle school, we've seen a little skinny boy, or we've seen a little boy who acted a little feminine. We all know there was always that young black male who just didn't have that real masculinity, and those were the ones that were preyed upon. If you was a young black male and you was skinny, you got preyed upon by the bigger guys. If you was a young black male that was poor, you wore raggedy clothes, you had to have patches in your pants and things of that nature. The boys in your school that was well dressed, who had the nice clothes, who had the affordable clothes, they would make a mockery. They would prey on the other boys who were struggling, who didn't have what they had. That's what most bullies do. Most bullies prey on the weak. So you have a lot of these poverty Pookies, not only being raised in households in which they had to struggle with one parent or two parents. They go to school getting picked on, getting being made a mockery out of, being teased, being bullied, getting beat up on. Not only these, young poverty Pookies had experience being bullied, a lot of them got rejected. You have a lot of these young black males, who came from poverty, who not only got bullied, but because they were constantly bullied, it made other young black females in that school shun them, reject them. No girl in middle school or high school wants to be with the boy that's always bullied, beat up, or is wearing a patch-up pants, or is so skinny, seeing him get thrown and shoved to the lockers, by the bigger guys that were jocks, or, that were more athletic or whatever. So, the young poverty Pookie just had it rough all the way around. Getting bullied by the guys, being rejected by the girls who they really liked, who they thought was really pretty and attractive. Again, the pretty girls, they don't want the soft guys. It's just always been that way. No more than back then, the attractive guys did not want the girls that were unattractive. It didn't matter how smart she was. It didn't matter if she made high honor roll. Jocks back then went for pretty dumb girls. She had to be pretty. It had nothing to do with how smart she was. So just like you had unattractive girls who, didn't stand a chance of being accepted for who they were based on how they looked, you have these young poverty Pookies who also got rejected. The girls that they thought was pretty, that they asked to the prom, rejected them, that they wanted to take out, she will humiliate him. You always had the pretty girls that was always very mean, and they had liked to humiliate the unattractive guys or whatever, because young women already at that age and time were already kind of vindictive and messy. So when you have the poverty Pookie asking you to the dance, asking you out, making little notes for you, would you like to go out to me, yes or no? She would pick that letter up and throw it in his face and wait till he got to the bus stop in front of everybody to reject him. Because back then girls were pretty cruel and mean, so you got these poverty Pookies that have gone through a lot, just being in poverty, just trying to make it through school. And as they excel from elementary to middle school to high school, some of the poverty pookies were fortunate and able to transition from the ugly duckling into the beautiful swan. And then you've had others who still struggled with trying to prove their masculinity. You know, you have some of these men who these young men, once they start getting up their weight, puberty kicks in. Now they're getting facial hairs. Now they're getting some muscles, and now they're starting to blossom, and puberty is kicking in. Now they're going into sports. They're going into athletics. They're going into things in school in which they feel like is going to draw them some type of popularity or some type of validation. In some cases, they are able to experience that, and in other cases, some of them never experience it. Some of them are just pookies all through the majority of the duration of their youth, in which again they experienced a lot of rejection. They experienced being overlooked, being teased, made fun of. A lot of these young men that have experienced that. It does one or two things. It's either going to motivate him to become successful as he becomes older, makes him strive to get a good career, makes him strive to be even more successful, because he wants to crawl out of that hole of rejection, of being belittled, of his masculinity, basically being constantly degraded for his masculinity. So he's either going to become successful or he's going to become mean. These are one of those ones who become woman beaters. These are one of the ones who end up coming in and out of prison, because they're going all their lives being bullied, made fun of. And when you experience some type of experiences, it's either going to make you greater or it's going to make you more hateful, one or the other. Or in this case, in which I am going to speak, when the poverty pookie transitions into a high value man, he actually becomes both. He becomes successful and he becomes nasty at the same time. Successful and disrespectful. Because now he has blossomed and transitioned into a better place in which he's no longer that poverty pookie. So you have these poverty pookies, once they have reached manhood, adulthood, now they are in a place in which they have earned their rights to success. They're either business owners, they either have successful careers as lawyers, as attorneys, they have basically transitioned their lives into becoming well more successful. So anyway, you get these poverty pookies that finally have climbed that ladder of success. He's no longer that little poverty pookie that was getting thrown around, slammed up against the lockers by the more athletic guys. He's no longer getting his lunch money taken. He's no longer getting rejected by the girls he asked out in prom. He's no longer getting declined by the pretty girls who he asked out on a date. The pretty girls who he wrote a letter to, do you like me, yes or no? And she throws the letter at him, at the bus stop in front of the other little girls and the other little boys so everybody could laugh at him. He's no longer in that place. But, however, mentally and emotionally, he has never forgotten all of the rejection that he has gone through as a poverty pookie, as a young poverty pookie, during his teens, during his early 20s. Again, maybe there was feminine ways about him, because we all knew that, we all knew a little, Timothy Tutti Frutti. Everybody knows a Timothy Tutti Frutti who acted a little effete compared to the other guys. Used to act a little feminine, used to move his hands a certain way, used to smile a certain way. He would never really participate in masculine activities. He would never do basketball, football, anything, wrestling, because he was very delicate. and dainty like a female. He didn't like to be roughed up. He didn't like to deal with really masculine things because he had feminine ways about him. So he would participate in like being on the drill team, being a cheerleader. He would participate in more feminine activities, being in a book club. Well, no, not sort of book club, because you had your nerdy guys too. Nerdy guys weren't fruity, they were just nerdy. But basically, y'all get what I'm saying. He would never really participate in masculine things, and he was probably one of the guys that would always kind of hang around the girls. So even if he liked the girl, she was not interested in him because she perceived him as being one of the girls. And you know, the guys definitely wasn't checking for him, because back then there was no acceptance of the ABC. If you were that way, you know, you knew to stay to yourself or either kick it with the girls as a guy, because the guys was not going to fool with you. You know what I mean? Guys back then was way more vocal. They would throw that F word around like, you know, a collection plate in the Baptist church. You know, that back then, you guys would look at a man sideways if he even had any type of feminine aura about him. So back then, you know, guys that struggled in that area, they stayed away from straight males or very masculine men, because they didn't want the masculine man taking advantage of them, beating them up, or bullying them, or you know, they just did not want that pressure of trying to be made more masculine than what they really were. Another thing I forgot to mention, y'all, short poverty pookies also had it the worst compared to the taller poverty pookies. The taller poverty pookies, they had their height to their advantage. So even if they were not that good in certain sports, or they weren't that athletic, their height alone gave them that sense of masculinity. You know, and again, we're thinking from a high school perspective. Of course, that's not going to fit. That narrative does not apply as an adult. We know a taller dude is not more masculine than a shorter guy. Okay, we're going back to during your duration in middle school and high school. You know, just the tall guys being tall, you had that advantage of being masculine, even if you really wasn't. The shorter poverty pookies, they really went through it the worst. The guys that were under 5'5", 5'7", I guess, 5'8", you know, more so the guys under 5'5" or whatever. And definitely if you were 5 even, like for instance, I'm 5 foot exactly. So again, a lot of poverty pookies during their puberty prime, a lot of them didn't spurt, you know, their growth didn't spurt. I can't say it, spurt. Sorry about that. I had a call intervention. But I wanted to get back to talking about how the poverty pookie, especially those who were short, under 5'8", or in worse circumstances 5'5", the poverty pookies during their youth that were short, that did not have height, they unfortunately caught the worst end of it. You had a lot of guys in school during that time that unfortunately would bully the shorter guys, especially if they were taller. Now, even during that duration, even in high school, you still had all youth struggling with some type of form of self-esteem, because you're still going through that stage in puberty. So you had a lot of these taller pookies who would prey on the shorter pookies. You know, they would throw their weight around, you know, slam them up against the locker, you know, take their school lunch money, you know, would pretty much rag on them, because again, the taller pookies, that was their way of proving their masculinity. So any type of young pookie in poverty that experienced being bullied because of his height, bullied because of his poverty, bullied because he did not have you know, all the materialistic things that other, you know, males had in high school, A lot of this has a lot to do with what drove him to be as successful as he is today. You have a lot of these men that are over the age of 35 and older, and a lot of them have reached a place in their lives in which they used their poverty and they used all of their shortcomings in life to strive them and motivate them to become successful like they are today. These are the guys that wear the nice suits, nice designer clothes, expensive watches, expensive jewelry, high designer shoes. These are the guys that finally have reached a place in their life in which they are grown men now. They are no longer those young poverty pookies that everybody could used to just throw around. The women used to reject them. The guys used to bully them. They're grown men now who are no longer in the circumstances they had to encounter when they were younger. So now these guys are grown men. A lot of them are successful. Some of them have their own businesses. Some of them have gained some type of popularity, whether if it's in YouTube, whether if it's as a content creator or in a celebrity status. They have found a new level of success. So they no longer have that stain of being a young Pookie of the poverty Pookie, the young poverty Pookie. So, nevertheless, poverty Pookie during his youth, he went through a lot of struggles during his adolescence or during his boyhood that has pretty much molded him into the grown, successful man that he has become today. So, what happens to the young poverty Pookie who transitions into a full-grown, high-value, successful man? Well, what tends to happen is, now that he is successful and he is in a place of being able to accomplish everything he has accumulated, he's no longer that poverty Pookie wearing patches in his pants. Now he's wearing Armani suits, designer labels. Now he's not wearing shoes that's talking to him. He's wearing expensive gator shoes. Now he sees that he's treated with more respect and admiration due to his success and due to his accomplishments. And what it does to some of these guys that are supposedly high value or successful, what it does is it tends to make them very arrogant and cocky to the point to where now they're pretty much critical of every man and every woman, because you have to realize, once upon a time, the poverty Pookie, before he became this high value man, he was always criticized. He was always critiqued. He was always made a mockery out of. And now that he has climbed the ladder of success, now he feels he can lash out and take it out on everybody else who really had nothing to do with the kids that traumatized him or made fun of him during high school, middle school, or during his prime. So now that he is successful, this is his moment to retaliate and get back at everyone who has ever doubted him, because he was known as the poverty Pookie. And now that he has come up, he's wearing designer suits, he's making money, he's driving luxury cars, he owns his own business, or he either has become successful through just being a YouTube content creator. It's so many ways to be successful other than just owning your business. Or now he's finally getting women to check for him because he's no longer that poverty Pookie. Now that he has transitioned to the high value man, women are noticing him now. And now that he knows he's no longer that poverty Pookie, now this is his moment to stunt on other women. Now take it out on other women who basically he feels he can compensate and lash and take his frustrations and disrespect out on to compensate for the younger females back in his day that rejected him or disrespected him. The girls who he found attractive in middle school and high school that wasn't checking for him, didn't see him as being very attractive, probably saw him as being soft or feminine, or maybe he just was the short dude that, you know, wasn't really appealing to the other girls, to the pretty girls in the middle school and the high school where he was attending. So now that he is successful, now he's using his success to torment other women by disrespecting them, degrading a specific group of women, especially if those specific group of women always disrespected him. For instance, if the poverty Pookie went to a school with the majority of black females where he was a youth, and the majority of the females that were black used to pick on him, used to make a mockery out of him, used to laugh at him, used to verbally taunt him, you know, call him the pissy boy, the crusty boy, the snotty nose boy, or the too dark or the too short, you know how kids are cruel back in the day. So now that he has blossomed into a high value man, he's taking it out on other women who had nothing to do with the little girls from back in his day that rejected him, that found him unattractive. Now that he has come up, these are the ones who you see that constantly have it out for women, who are constantly calling women the B word, who are constantly labeling women in a negative manner. Now, don't get me wrong. If a man wants to critique women, that's what he does. You know, that's what his content is about. Okay, I get it, because you have women who do it all the time as well. They critique men all the time, and that's all they talk about on the majority of their content. But when you have a man that's consistently and constantly being disrespectful for no reason, just talking to a woman recklessly, talking to women recklessly, even when women are being respectful, even when women are trying to hold an intelligent conversation and are not over talking him or are trying to like outshine him or overrule the conversation, he waits for her, he seizes the moment for the woman to say something or to do something in which he can go for her jugular. Again, because you have to remember, the high value man, before he became high value, once upon a time, he was the poverty Pookie. What you see now is how the poverty Pookie transitioned into the high value man. So if you don't know the high value man's past, if you really don't know how he came up, you really don't know the dynamics of his childhood. Like, was he raised by a single mother, a bitter single mother, or he was raised without a man in the household, or maybe he had a father in the household that wasn't really a man. If you really don't understand his dynamics, his upbringing, how he was born and raised, you would not know or have an idea as to what's making him be so disrespectful towards women. It's coming from somewhere, because again, now that he has blossomed into a successful man, he's making money, he's driving nice cars, he's wearing nice suits. Now he has it out for everybody. Not only has the high value man who transitioned from a poverty Pookie, who was once upon a time a poverty Pookie, not only is he disrespectful to women, he's disrespectful to other men. You have to realize the poverty Pookie has not always just had his share of rejection from women. He's also had his share of rejection from men. How you know? When a man has to constantly brag about how much money he makes. When he has to put down other men. Well, I'm wearing expensive suits. Why are you wearing Walmart clothes, as if a man's clothes define how much money he has in his pockets? I know guys who wear non-label designer clothes and got way more money, own businesses, own all kind of stocks and bonds, own houses, own property. And I know guys who are well dressed, who wear top of the line gator shoes, top of the line tailor suits, and still live in an apartment. Okay, don't own anything, or still tricking off of women or whatever. So your clothes, your luxury cars don't define you as a man. Because a lot of times, simple guys who aren't very extravagant, who aren't overly dressed, trying to be overly appealing, most guys who are kind of low key and not trying to be flashy and flamboyant, is because they are focusing on more meaningful plans. They're trying to pay off a home. They're trying to own property. They're trying to accumulate assets. So just because a man is driving a luxury vehicle, that doesn't mean he's going anywhere. And just because a man is driving a putt-putt or an 86 Honda Accord, it doesn't mean that he's a failure, he's a scrub or a builder bum. Just different men have their priorities in alignment. You have some men that want a good future, and you got other men who just want to look good. Okay? No different than you got some women around here that look good, keep their hair and nails done, but she don't own a home, she don't own anything, she ain't even put no money up for her children to be able to go to college without getting student loans. And here it is, the other woman that you may run into, she's not all dolled up, her hair ain't done, her nails ain't done, but she looks decent, and you think because she's a plain Jane, she has nothing going for herself, when really she's just a woman that's prioritizing her plans. She's not all about stunting and trying to flex and get a man. You know, she's all about making sure her kids look good, making sure she's stacking up bread so she can accumulate something for her the future, and if her children get older and something happens to her, they have something that they can lean on. She can leave them some type of legacy. So you cannot always focus on a person's physical attributes, because what you see most of the time is not always what you get. You know, it's a lot of fakery going on. So you got a lot of people that know how to put up a good presentation and be none of what they present. So anyway, when a high value man, has transitioned from, poverty Pookie, now he feels he can criticize and put down anyone else he feels has an opinion about him as a man, has an opinion about his character and how he conducts himself, because again, he feels like he's out on a different level now. He's making more money than he ever made. He's accomplished more than he's ever accomplished. So now this is his time to get back at anybody that has anything negative to say about him as a person, about what he has, what he drives, what he possesses. That is his moment to lash out and be disrespectful, to men and women. So you have a lot of these poverty Pookies. I mean, I have a lot of these high value guys that was once upon a time poverty Pookies, came up with nothing, came up struggling. Also too, the poverty Pookies, some of them didn't have the best of relationships with their mothers, which is the reason why they cannot stand women. You have, I know it's a lot of men, most of them are not very transparent about their childhood. Not too many men are going to be open. You have a few. DMX, God bless his soul, was one of the few that was very transparent and said that he didn't have a good relationship with his mother. And it was evident because DMX had a hard time being able to commit to women, being able to respect women. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that he had a very turbulent relationship with his mother. And the high value man, former poverty Pookie, if he has had any issues with his mother as a young man growing up, and he's never gotten any therapy, that relationship has never healed, or God forbid, in the worst circumstance, his mother passed away when he was young, so he was never able to salvage that relationship or restore that relationship. Whatever that relationship was, if it was negative before she passed away and he never had got the chance to fix that or correct that, he's forever going to be angry with women, because really your mother is supposed to be your first love. Your mother is supposed to be your first love. So if you had a very turbulent, toxic relationship with your mother, if your mother was riding down on you, if your mother didn't hug you, didn't show you love, didn't make you feel special as her son, that's a trauma. That's an emotional trauma that will continue to follow you as a grown man. And it will never leave. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care how much expensive designer suits you wear. It's not going to cover up or compensate for the fact that you have to live with the fact that the woman who should have showed you love, it's not going to compensate for the fact that you did not get that. And a lot of these high value men, a lot of them are grown men who are broken little boys who feel like the only way they could feel a sense of pride or integrity, they got to be well dressed, they got to wear expensive suits, they got to wear expensive gator shoes, they have to, roast or attack or make a mockery out of anybody who has an opinion about them, anybody who questions them, confronts them about anything, because again, it's that broken little boy under that $1,000 suit and $800 gator shoes that still needs healing, that still needs spiritual uplifting. And instead of him being man enough to say that, no, instead he's just going to be a jerk. It's called deflecting or displaced anger. There's not too many broken men that are going to be honest and say, I'm hurt because the woman that was supposed to show me love, my own mother didn't show me love. She didn't show me affection. Or the mother I had was abusive. If not the mother, it was some type of other woman who at one point in time, who they really did fall hard for, who they really did fall deeply in love with, who played them, who disappointed them. And now he's a scorned brother. Like you got these, bitter black women out here. You got a lot of broken black men that are still angry and taking it out on all women because he is still traumatized from the fact that once upon a time when he was a poverty Pookie, how women used to tease him, used to make fun of him. And that emotional trauma, it never left. And he thinks he can overshadow that by wearing expensive suits and designer shoes for the women who used to call him the G-A-Y word, question his sexuality. See, all of that was very traumatizing during his youth. So now that he's older, this is his time to get back at everybody for all the pain he has experienced during his youth as a poverty Pookie before he became successful and before he reached a place of being successful and building his legacy, building himself as a man. So this is the reason why you have a lot of these guys, who finally have climbed the ladder. They're successful now. And at this point in time in their lives, one would think because they grew up in a struggle, they, came up hard, came up in the least fortunate circumstances, you would think it would kind of make them have a little bit more compassion for other black men who may not be as successful as he is, or for other black women who may not be as successful as he is. But instead of it making him more compassion, it makes him more critical, because again, he has not healed from how he was treated as a young man during his poverty. He was never nurtured, he was never loved, and all of that anger has grown with him throughout the duration from his poverty, from boyhood to manhood. And it's the same thing with women. If she didn't get any type of real spiritual healing in her childhood, it's going to continue to grow and fester, and it's going to follow her into her womanhood. But we already know women are emotional creatures who are consistently holding on to things from their past or from their childhood, which is the reason why a lot of them are angry, bitter, and volatile. We know this about women. But the thing is, a lot of people don't want to believe this when it comes to men, because again, men are taught to be men. Meaning you're supposed to be masculine, play hard, act like none of what you went through as a child affects you. Because if you become transparent and you become vulnerable. Men do not like to become vulnerable. They don't like to put themselves out there, especially on public display, when there's so many other men that have such high admiration for them. Most poverty pookies that are now high value men, they're not going to be very transparent with other men about things they have gone through as a child, because once they have reached a level of respect that they never used to get as a child, they want to maintain that respect. They want to maintain that image of, I got brothers who respect me because of the narratives that I promote, the knowledge that I kick, and the type of knowledge that I disperse. And what a lot of the guys that's respecting me and being my fanboys, what they're not understanding is a lot of the content and knowledge that I'm giving them is from a broken place. That's why I have no problem lashing out on other women, because I'm still angry, I'm still upset, and I'm still hurt about how women treated me in the past. Or I have no problem with how I disrespect other men who don't have what I have, who I feel like are not in a financially blessed place like I am. I have no problem putting them down and criticizing them and telling them they broke. You ain't got no money, you ain't got nothing. That's deflecting. You know why? Because that's how other men treated me when I was broke, when I didn't have, as a child, when I was going through my poverty Pookie phase. But now that I'm on a come up, because I'm doing well as a content creator, I'm doing well as a business owner, or I'm doing well, as a CEO, whatever their new level of success is, now they feel vindicated and being able to disrespect other men who are trying to climb the ladder and get to where they are. If they're not disrespecting men, they're definitely going to disrespect the opposite sex, which is women. So nobody really, like I said, nobody wants to really channel in. We want to give people praise and homage for how they bash or how they degrade the opposite sex. But what you're not realizing is the reason why the majority of some of these high value men are so good at bashing and thrashing and trashing the opposite sex, because it's coming from a broken place. It's coming from a place of pain. And anybody, whenever, this is what pain does. Pain makes you very knowledgeable in areas in which you were once attacked. For instance, like a rape victim. Any woman who has experienced rape has way more knowledge and wisdom compared to a woman who's probably never experienced rape. A woman who has been raped is way more aware of her surroundings because of the trauma it has caused her. She's way more alert. She's not going to go to all kind of places all time of night. She's not going to be and put herself in a position in which she's in the company of a man alone, where things can happen, because it's that trauma that makes her keep her guard up and makes her even more extra protective of herself. And that's the same way with the high value man that was once upon a time a poverty Pookie. Because of what he's gone through as a young man, being disrespected, being teased, being bullied, being told you act like a girl, being told you dark, you too dark, or being told you broke, you a bum, you don't have anything. All of these things has shaped his overall perception as to how he perceives women. And even more so, now that he's successful, if a woman rejects him, he really will take disrespect to a whole nother level, because he's looking at it like this. I'm a catch. How dare you reject me or decline me? When I got all this money, when I got these luxury cars, because I got all this success. Or you have the high value man that's just disrespectful on a regular. He keeps his bullets in a chamber. He cannot wait, you know what I'm saying, to empty his clip on the first woman who he feels says or does anything to offend him. He can't wait to attack. Because again, he's constantly looking for opportunity, he's seizing the moment to attack a woman because he's never got past the past in which other women have clowned him or disrespected him. Told him, you too short, get away from me. You too dark, get away from me. You too broke, get away from me. So the moment any woman rejects him, it triggers him. It takes him back to that Pookie poverty phase when girls rejected him and told him how unattractive he was. And now that he's successful, he don't feel as if he should be reminded of that, if that makes any sense. So when these type of men become successful, they still take their bitterness, they pack their bitterness and their expensive Louis Vuitton briefcase, and they take it with them everywhere they go. As Sheep's slave would say, big ups to Sheep, a man cannot build until he heals. A broken man is no better than a bitter woman. They contaminate everyone else around them. You know who supports these type of men? The same type of women that support the bitter women. Bitter women are going to join forces with bitter female leaders. And that's the same thing. You have men who have been rejected, that have been disrespected. They're going to ride with the poverty Pookie mascot, who is now the new voice, who is now speaking on the behalf. He's the spokesperson for all the poverty Pookies. And now that he's successful, he feels like he's earned his rights to drag whatever woman he wants to drag any man he wants to drag. Make no mistake about it. I've seen a lot of past poverty Pookies that have disrespected other black men by calling them broke. You ain't got nothing. You a broke nigga. I make more money than you. When since men start comparing their pockets to other men, there's nothing masculine about that. A real man knows that it takes another man time to build and to progress, because he once upon a time, it took him time to build and progress. That's perfect common sense. All of us cannot be on the same level all at the same time. Somebody got to come last. Everybody can't be the first in the finish line. Somebody got to come last. Somebody has to fail. We all have been there. But you get the high value that forgets where the hell he came from as a poverty Pookie. He forgot before he started wearing these suits, before he started making his money, his cash apps, being able to afford these extravagant trips. He forgot once upon a time he was raised in a household when they didn't even have a car. He forgot when his parents, he used to have to walk to the bus stop with holes in his shoes, his toes numb and cold, his feet, numbed up cold from the winter air, because his parents couldn't afford to buy him the best. But now that he can finally, he's rich and successful, he could buy himself the best of everything. Now he's shitting on everybody else who is struggling, forgetting once upon a time he struggled. Because again, he still has not healed from the trauma of the poverty Pookie. Being told, you ain't gonna be shit, you ain't got shit, you ain't nothing. And the moment anybody attacks him, now that he's at his level of success, he is going to spin all his venom out like a king cobra. He's going to bite and lash out on anybody. Because again, the poverty Pookie has succeeded. Nobody's going to remind him of his failures. Nobody's not going to traumatize him and take him back to that space in which he wasn't nobody. As the song goes, now Mr. Nobody is somebody. He think he could drag anybody. And that's what's going on. Nothing wrong with being happy that you made it, but once upon a time, you yourself, you struggled to get to where you were. You don't have to take it out on everyone or get mad if somebody has something to critique you about or something to say about you as a person or whatever the case is. That's just life. People going to have an opinion regardless. People going to have something to say. But again, the high value man who was consistently disrespecting women, who is consistently disrespecting other men, is still broken, and he has not been healed from his childhood trauma. When people made fun of him, people picked on him, people said they figured he was tutti frutti, fresh and fruity. Now his success has given him the privilege to hide behind that mask of pain. He don't feel he got to own his pain and what he went through as a child, because I make money now. I'm wearing expensive suits now. I have arrived. I have made it. I don't have to own my pain. Instead, I'll just deflect and take my frustration out on everybody else around me by disrespecting other women, disrespecting other men, putting other men down who don't have what I have, putting other women down who don't find me attractive. You'll be surprised how many of these successful men are still struggling with rejection from the past. So anyway, y'all, I'm going to get ready to shut it down. It's your diva knowledge, Lady Mocha, represent Mocha's Cafe de Paris. Listen, y'all, I know the holidays get ready to come up. If you want me to start making tumblers for loved ones, this is the time to start booking. This is the time to start emailing me. Okay, get your orders in early. I do all type of tumblers. I do Marvel characters, basketball, sports. I could do tumblers with family photos on them. I could do tumblers as anniversary gifts, breast cancer, any type of cancer awareness, to uplift somebody's spirits. Anything in mind. It does not matter. But I know the holidays, we're approaching them slowly but surely. So this is the time to start putting your orders in before I get to book. So anyway, y'all be blessed. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.